Sarah Lacy, and this is Ask a VC on the road. We are in a fairly stunning and Anthony Bourdain looking setting, and oh, there's a VC right here. So James, introduce yourself.
Hello guys, I'm James. I'm from Neotany Labs. I'm investment manager there, and I'm helping Joey with the fund that we just raised recently.
Cool. So let's start out. We've got a couple questions from Vishal. He wants to know a lot of basic questions about the fund. What kind of ventures you're interested in, any particular focus, stage of investment?
Okay, so it's a $5 million US fund, and we're looking at the Asia market, primarily consumer internet companies. We're looking to, it's a B2C play, and they're really building products that are reaching out directly to consumers, and it's a very agile team. So we need to like the product, we need to like the team, and they're working in the Asia market. So that's
anywhere in Asia?
Anywhere in Asia.
So
right?
India, China, or non-India, China, Asia?
Less so India and China, just because I think there are a lot of investors there already.
Yeah.
And we're looking at the places that are not being focused right now on, and with then looking at for good teams and good products and taking them to the market, helping them to get the lift on the user traction.
Right.
And once they do that, then to help them with internal funding in the larger, more homogenous markets like the US, Japan, Middle East.
All consumer internet?
All consumer internet, yes.
Okay.
All consumer internet.
Do you take equity, cash, structured like a USVC?
So we have two modes of investments. One is just like a normal VC where we come in as a preference shares, right? Another mode is when the company qualifies for the funding leverage that we can get from the government of Singapore.
Right.
And the funding leverage allows us to get roughly it allows us to have a call option on the government's portion. It's about a 5-to-1, 6-to-1 leverage.
Yeah.
And the idea is to be, the idea is. The idea. Sorry, we just have to say no to an old man who's buying tissue paper, who's selling us tissue paper.
He's an entrepreneur, and you're saying
Very
no
much
to him.
so. Yeah, right away, without the pitch, right? And the idea is for the government to fund and drive the investments in early stage growth companies in Singapore. And we're one of the 7 incubators that have been awarded this, that are approved.
Okay.
And so whatever investments we make, we'll get this funding leverage. That makes it a lot more capital efficient for
6
us.
to 1.
6 to 1, yeah. We effectively lose 1/5 or 1/6 per investment if we don't.
That's amazing.
If it doesn't work. Right? But if it does, then it's pretty good for us.
Okay, great. So I have a question from Lee. He says about 10 years ago, speaking to a CEO of a fairly sizable non-tech company, and who said that in the back of people's minds in Singapore, there's always some concern about being invaded by Malaysia or another neighbor. Is this total paranoia? Do people really worry about this?
Is this a startup question? No. Okay. Well,
it is. If someone's thinking about moving here, they want to know about stability and mindset.
So if there's
no bag on Lee.
No. if there's any place that's safer than Singapore, please let me know.
Okay.
I'll be extremely interested to know where that is and how we can learn and be better. I think that paranoia is always in the minds of people just because of what's happened in the past with the communists in the region and with the tensions between Malaysia and Singapore will be separated. I don't think that it is the predominant view. It might have been for a while, but not really today. Right? That no one's gonna invade Singapore because we're nobody. I think a tsunami would just wash over us any day, right? They don't have to invade us.
God might invade you.
Yeah, maybe.
So also not a startup question. Lee wants to know, in your opinion, and I know this is a contentious question, what is the best chili crab in Singapore?
I think it's Long Beach. But I'm not a big fan of chili crab. I prefer the steamed ones just because that's where the freshness of the crab comes through. Just like fish.
I've heard some people not be fans of chili crab for the same reason. They think it's too over-seasoned and you're not tasting the crab.
I would still eat it because the magic behind that is the buns with the sauce.
I know.
Not the crab.
So I had this for lunch today, and I mean those fried buns that you dip in the sauce are it's like eating donuts with spicy sriracha, little bits of crab floating in sauce.
Not quite Dunkin' Donuts, but yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move along. Clive wants to know if young Malaysians can shake off colonial attitudes and have the confidence to create products and take entrepreneurial risks. And feel free to extrapolate beyond Malaysia, because I think this is an issue all of Asia really deals with.
I think that it's a mindset issue. It's just like we're born with the option of choice. We can make a choice, right? And the choice will first begin by equipping yourself with the right information on what's available. With the internet today, you can do a lot more than what you could, what I could, like when I was starting out. And that will be a great foundation for them to start thinking about what they want to do.
Right.
And it might jolly well be that they're not going to become entrepreneurs, which is fine.
Right.
Everybody can't be entrepreneurs. Some people can. And then they work with the rest of the world to become successful, right? And when they do decide to become entrepreneurs, shaking off that mindset would just mean having this desire to challenge authority. I don't mean challenge authority by the sense of like just doing stupid things where you get yourself into trouble.
Right.
But really just always questioning what's out there, right? I learned this from Joey, right? He's great about this. And it's always about why is something the way it has to be.
Yeah.
Right? If that's the case, and you have that mentality, or you're able to cultivate that mentality, I think you're able to do whatever you want in life. It doesn't necessarily have to be, entrepreneurship.
Right.
And you're gonna succeed, right? So I think that's the key. And once you can do that, I think you're fine.
Okay. And this person, I forgot to write down their name, so
That's okay.
Mr. So-and-so wants to know, what is the current state of e-commerce in terms of sales and market share in Southeast Asia?
So one thing that's been said a lot is that e-commerce in Southeast Asia is very fragmented. The markets themselves are very different. You've got varying levels of infrastructure in Singapore, in Japan, in Indonesia, right? And in Malaysia, delivery methods and all that. I think you can actually, I'm able to buy things offline easily if I want to access stuff like that way. But the norm, because of the way the population's centered around cities, I haven't seen a strong trend of e-commerce in the Southeast Asian cities. In the big homogenous cities, countries like Japan, China, obviously it's taking off. In the big markets,
but even in India, it's really nascent.
Yeah.
Like you're only starting to see like the early ones, like Make My Trip, which does travel, and kind of those first categories.
I think it's because of the way people buy. The disposable income levels are not as high, and the e-payment methods are not as established and trusted. So in those markets, the potential is huge, and I think at some point in time, some smart entrepreneur, hardworking entrepreneur is going to crack the problem.
Right.
But until certain factors are in place, you sort of want to be there before it takes off, but you also sort of want to, not be in too early. So it's a tricky problem. Amazon's obviously accessing the markets through their wide networks. Local, in Singapore at least, people are just buying by, you browse online, but then you just end up walking to stores to buy them still, pretty much. So that's the only response I can give. It's hard for me to say anything more. I don't have an innate, deep expertise on e-commerce.
We just pretend. That's what we do on TechCrunch. Now, this guy also has a question for me. He wants to know why he's never seen a startup from Malaysia written about on TechCrunch. The answer is, I'm the only one who travels to TechCrunch, and I haven't gone to Malaysia yet. That is the entire answer. So someone send me a good explanation for why Malaysia is the next Southeast Asian country I should go to, and I'll write about it. All right, now I'm going to finish up with a question from Daniel. He just returned from Singapore and Indonesia last week. Very impressed with the changes over the years. Seems like Indonesia and Singapore are finally hitting their stride. He says he's been traveling through Singapore, running a small business for surfers in Indonesia for the last 15 years, but his primary living is made as a software developer in San Francisco. He's thought about relocating to Singapore, and his concerns are this: is now the right time? And two, is it possible for a consumer-based web powerhouse like the next Twitter or Facebook to emerge from Singapore? Specifically, is there the talent base here?
So, if there's no better time, I think it's now, the present. There's never always a better time, right? It's just like the photographer that says, like, the moment is now.
Right.
So I think it's getting more and more obvious that Asia is going to be where the center of the world is going to be focused on. Doesn't mean that the other places are not going to succeed or do well, but a lot of attention will be shifting to Asia, and it's important for people who want to access the markets to be here. Some people feel challenged by some markets like China and India directly, which is why I think Singapore is a great place to get to have an in-between. it's a great one-on-one to Asia, and you can still be in your comfort zone, but yet really reach out, right? So I think it's a great time to do that. Please do, and I'm happy to help anybody, be a node to anybody who's looking to move to Asia. I did a lot of that in my previous lives. And on the next question about Twitter and the future of the consumer internet companies out of Asia, I think, you know, the great thing about the net and the open web frameworks and open source code and, you know, agile group methodologies is such that you don't really have to be that close to the market. Increasingly, we have globalization and city-states, right? Even I would argue that the world is becoming a conglomerate of cities, and markets are gonna be like basically an aggregation of cities. So being in Singapore, being in Tokyo, being in San Francisco, New York, Bangalore, you can succeed wherever you are. The most important success factor, I think, is the entrepreneur's personal understanding of the markets, the user, and the product vision sense is very important. And the attention to the development process and the metrics that they use. These are all very important things that the entrepreneur needs to have, regardless of what country they're in. And if they have that, and they are able to keep things nimble and prototype and do all the kinds of stuff that all the other VCs, great VCs on this show have given advice on, I think they're able to succeed, right? It's never going to be a case of just because we are not in Silicon Valley, right, or in Israel, we're not going to be able to do it. No.
Right.
That's another point of questioning authority, right? So you need to question and say, why can't I do it in this part of the world? And that's why great entrepreneurs are born. And we love to be there and fund them and support them.
Right. All right, I said that was the last question, but I have one more, and we're getting a little long here, so you have to answer this one quickly, like yes or no answer. Singapore is an incredibly pragmatic place. Most entrepreneurs are not pragmatic, which is why they take the risks to go up against big companies. I mean, they're not doing something logical. So can you have great entrepreneurship and pragmatism in the same culture?
So the answer on whether Singapore is a pragmatic place, yes, yes, and yes, right? I grew up being taught about it to be pragmatic, but at the same time, we don't need to rely on our native talent base to innovate, right? America was born from immigrants,
right?
So are we, right? And we continue to allow talent to flow freely into the country and to contribute in their own ways. And that, in my opinion, will be the greatest fuel for the future of innovation and entrepreneurship in Southeast Asia.
All right, cool. We're gonna go eat everything in here.
Wow.
You have to get back to work, whoever you are watching TechCrunch. Thank you so much, James.
Thank you guys, happy to see you, happy to be here.